This is Matt Coliff, the Kentucky FFA Executive Secretary. The purpose of this video is to show ag teachers some features of AET that they need to use on the chapter level and help you learn to use and navigate those features. So we're going to be very basic today and show you some things that you need to know as you get started with AET. The first thing we want to look at is the profile. And so I'm logged into our Kentucky FFA account, so you're going to see what it looks like, but this is how a chapter view would look. If we click on profile, we're just going to start and work left to right and top to bottom. So we're going to start here with our program contact information. You can see that our contact information is up to date. But obviously if we had moved or had changed locations or something, we could fix that. I'm going to go ahead and set our local time zone because that's never been done. If I needed to do a password reset, I can do that here under password reset. Just making you aware, though, that there's one password for each chapter account. So if you're in a multi-teacher department, if you're going to reset that password, you need to make sure that your co-workers know what that is and have that information. And then we're going to go here to the data tab. We can put in some data if we take a notion to do that. Click back on the profile and see some other things. We have this maintain list of teachers and their contact information. You can see that we have two teachers in the Kentucky FFA account, myself and then W.C. Montgomery, who's one of my predecessors, are in there. But if we had a new teacher coming in, we could add a new person, and we would just add their name and their first and last name and their address and get them added. We can, if W.C. Montgomery, for example, has left, we can click on inactivate this person and make him inactive. So that'd be something good to check every year, is make sure we've got our teacher list up to date and everything in order on that front. If we go back to profile then, the next thing we see is this manager list of student vendors. This is going to show you different vendors that have been used by your students over the years. And so if there's somebody, some vendor, for example, Southern States, that lots of your students are going to be using, you can add them to your student vendor list. And so Southern States is on here. I'm going to add them. You'll notice it's just going to pull over here to the chapter vendor list. What that's going to do is it's going to put it on a drop-down list for your students. And so instead of all your students having to type Southern States, it's automatically going to populate to a drop-down menu for them. The other benefit of this is at the end of the year, you can pull a report for one of these vendors. If you're going to ask for sponsorship from Southern States, you can pull a report that shows all the money that all of your students spent with Southern States over the course of the year. Pretty neat feature. If we go back to profile, this is our list of important contacts. This is not something you have to do, it's just a tool, but if there are different people in the community that you want to add, maybe you wanted to keep up with your alumni list or something like that, you can put them here, and so all the teachers in the program have access to that at all times. If we go back to profile, this is very, very important. This has to be done on an annual basis, and that's to set up the courses that we're going to be teaching in a given year. So we click on this. We're going to see that I have set up classes in the past year. So we've got classes in this account going all the way back to 10-11, but I've not done this year. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a new course. I'm going to click on new course, and I'm going to be the teacher of that. Put myself in. We're going to put the first day of that course as 8/15/2000. Now you can be real specific and go back to the exact dates you started, or you can put in general dates. I usually use 8/15 and 5/15. So May the 15th of 2021 will be the last day of the class. I've got to select a pathway. So I'm going to select for this one, I'm going to select an Ag Power pathway. And I've got to select the actual class, call it Ag Construction Skills. Class name is here, and we're good to go. So we can click Save, and that class is going to be saved and in our list. Now, we can also make a decision we may need to add classes for past years. For example, if you're new to the program and you need to add a class for the past year when they maybe didn't do one, you can obviously do that. Again, just make sure that you put in the start date if we're trying to do one for 18-19, for example, you would put in August the 15th of 18 as the start date, May the 15th of 19 is the end date for that class. It's not necessary that you put in all the classes for all the years of the program, but it is necessary that you have at least one class for every year of the program. What we'd like to see you start doing is in August or July or August is that you go in and put in all the classes for the coming school year for all the teachers, and that way that's in, it's built, and we're in good shape moving forward. Click back on profile. There are a couple other things in here that we can do. We're not going to spend a lot of time on those today, but you can manage your settings and your privacy. You can also manage your chapter AET website. You do have a free AET website built for you. All you've got to do is basically click there and turn it on for your program. If that's something you want to explore, feel free to do that. Obviously, there's no pressure from us to do that. Just want to make sure that you know it's available. We're going to move on now and talk about chapter accounts. So we're going to click on accounts. There's several features here. Again, I'm going to try to show you a couple different options under there. So if we click on manage all accounts, this is where we're going to actually add students. There's a couple different ways that we can add students. We can add students one at a time if we click here on one. So we can add one student at a time, and we would just simply go in, give them a username, their first name and last name, and their graduation year. Those are things we have to put in, and then a password. I'm going to recommend to you that if you create passwords, that you make it something standard for everybody. And so, for example, when I was at Taylor County, we were the Cardinals. So it would be Cardinal 1 or TCHS Cardinal, something like that. You can obviously make it whatever you want it to be. That's up to you. It's your decision. Obviously, we want the students to reset those passwords once they get logged into their accounts. But for now, we just simply want to have a basic password. And then we would click Add User, and that student's going to be added. We also have the option to add multiple students at once, and this is what we recommend that you do for freshmen coming into the program, is go ahead and add all of them. And so all you have to add is a last name, comma, first name. So if you have that, for example, in your Infinite Campus, you can copy it out of Infinite Campus and paste it in here. And so you could paste in 10 names, 20 names, 50 names. Click on Add Accounts, and it's going to generate those. It's going to automatically generate username and password and get all those accounts set up for you. Just to show you how that works, I'm going to set one up for show you what it would look like with one. So Kurt Lucas, a former coworker of mine, will set up Kurt an account. So we're going to add an account. If we go down here in the list now, we're going to see Lucas Kurt. We're going to see that his username is going to be C, capital L, and then his last name. So C Lucas. And it's going to give him his password, then it's going to be C Lucas as well. We can go into this screen though and reset his password if we need to. Whatever we want to do on that front. So we've got several options. If we go back, so we'll cancel this and go back. We have the option here. We could reset all of our student passwords if we wanted to. And then we also have this National Rosters Utilities. Basically what that's going to show you is how many of your students are in the National Roster System. If we go back to accounts now, we've seen how to add a student account. If a student comes to us and says, I need you to reset my account, again, what we're going to do is go to Manage All Accounts. We're going to find that student, so we'll go back to Kurt Lucas. Kurt Lucas needs us to reset his account. We're going to go here and we're going to reset his password to whatever we want it to be. So again, if that's Cardinals, Cardinals 1, we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll go ahead and save that. If for some reason, and this happens a lot, have a lot of students who go by a different name, maybe than what their given name is. So for example, I'm John Matthew Call, I go by Matt. So how we put their name in here is going to determine how it appears on all of their degree and award applications right down the road. So going ahead and getting that right to start with would be really important. Mr. Lucas, for example, his name is actually Charles Curtis. So we could put in Charles Curtis Lucas, if that's how he's going to want it to appear on his proficiency, his American degree down the road. Or maybe he just wants to go by Kurt. And if he wants to go by Kurt, we could change it to Kurt. But ideally, we get it right in AET to begin with, and then it's going to match everything else that we do on down the road. But again, that's where we'd fix his name and hit save, and that's going to show it up for us the way that we want it. We'll go back to accounts now. Show you one other thing in this manage all accounts. If we have a student who's graduated, and we probably need to be doing this about once a year, probably in the summer, a student who has graduated who we know is not going to do an American degree, we know they're not going to do a proficiency, what we want to do is go ahead and make those students inactive. We're not deleting them. They can always come back, but we can make them inactive. And so we click on however many of these students that's the case for. So I'm going to check mark those two, and then we'll go up here and we'll click on mark inactive. Another feature we can do here works the same way as marking inactive. Let's say that a JT Payne is going to transfer. So he's moved from in this case, our state account to somewhere else. We can click on him, click on transfer, and then we can select from this list of, this is literally all the chapters in the country. So if we wanted to move him, he actually teaches at Henderson County now, so we can move him to Henderson County, Kentucky. This is also very valuable if you have middle school students who are moving from, say, Royal Spring Middle School to Scott County High School, or whatever the case might be. You can transfer those students, and all their records and all their information goes with them. So it's a great feature to know how to use and be familiar with. We'll go back now to the Accounts tab. Show you how to access one account. If we do this, we can actually see the student view of the account. So if you're trying to help a student, if I'm working with a student remotely, what I'm going to do is log in here, and then I'm going to access their account, and I'm going to log in and see exactly what they're seeing. So that's very helpful to me in terms of helping them. I'm going to go back, hit the wrong button there, but I'm going to go back in accounts. There's different reports that I can see here. This organize students into groups. What that allows me to do is if I want to make a group of all my freshmen or all my officer team or all my first period principal students, whatever I want to do, I can organize them into groups and message them directly. So that may be something that you want to think about and want to look at. I think the student contact and emergency info is going to pull basically an overall report for you, so you can immediately see that. If we think about we're traveling, as long as we've got that information up to date with the students, and we can pull it here. But for example, I have a sort of a dummy account for my daughter, just so we could show some stuff and show how it works. So for example, for her, my wife's contact info, my contact info is here. So if I'm on a trip and I had this completed, I could easily track down her parents and get help if we needed that. The other thing that I want to show you in the Accounts tab, and this is what we use a lot, is this FFA Roster Helper. It's going to look just a little bit different for mine because it's not actually linked to real members, but I'll show you real quick what it looks like. So I'm going to click on that button. It's going to show me a list of all my students. And so in theory, what's supposed to happen is every day the AET system talks to the FFA system, and it will match it up. So if there's an Anna Coliff who ends up in the FFA roster system, name spelled the same as mine, it should automatically give her a member number right here. Well, it hasn't done that. So before we have a panic attack, the first thing we should do is hit this look up FFA ID button. What that's going to do is make the systems talk to each other and find out if there is an Anna Coliff in that chapter and give her a member number. Now, obviously, again, this is my state account, so it's not going to show that, but you get the idea of what's going to happen. Now, if it won't match it up, then that probably tells me there's an issue with her name. Either there's about three things can be wrong. One, she's not on the roster at all, which sometimes happens. The second thing is her name is different on the roster than it is in AET. There's a way to fix that, prevent that, but I'll show you what that is. But for example, back to the Kurt Lucas example, he's Charles Lucas here, he's Kurt on the FFA roster. Well, to fix that, we would go back to his account, change his name to Kurt, do the lookup, and then it'll match it, Kurt Lucas to Kurt Lucas, and we'll get him a member number. And again, we can always update that, make his name whatever we want it to be. The way that we recommend that you do this, and the way that can make your life so much easier, is if you go ahead and put all your freshmen in AET first. So dump them in from IC, put them in here, have the students and log in and do their own personal profile, so their parents' names, their contact information, mailing address, all that information. And then from here, we can check mark them. Once their information is complete and they're showing green here, we can check mark them. So these three are the ones we could send, and we can go ahead and send those members to FFA. Once we do that, those members and their information is going to end up on the FFA roster. Now, you're still going to go into the FFA roster, double check that, make sure we haven't added anybody twice, make sure everybody's there that's supposed to be. But where this saves you time and energy is you no longer have to type in Anna Colliff's address, Anna Colliff's phone number, Anna Colliff's race and gender and ethnicity. She's going to do all that for you. So again, we recommend real strongly that that you do that first. So the first step when we get a new student, we set them up an AET account, let them do their profile, and then we can push them to the membership roster from there. If we do it that way, we never have to worry about the names matching because the names are going to match. So again, regardless of how Kurt Lucas is, what name he goes by, if we do it this way, we're going to have his name matched up and it's all going to work out. Go ahead and unclick those for now. If we go back to accounts, we can also look at this FFA roster, and it's again, if we push that, it's going to force it to look up those FFA membership numbers and figure out what's going on if we get one of those that doesn't match up. Would always tell you if you have a student, you can't get a membership number on their application. If you'll shoot me a quick email and say, hey, I'm trying to get Mary Jones or Jose Villanos or whatever the student's name is, cannot get their member number to match. If you'll send me that, I'll be glad to look it up and look into it and see what I can do to help with that. I want to show you just a couple more quick features from the teacher perspective that you need to be aware of. If we click on this tracker feature, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but we can track our program activities calendar here. We can manage what students have access to that. We can even manage our program budget, program meetings, those kind of things, if that's something that you're interested in doing. And then we can also record our contacts. So if we're doing SAE visits or we're going to visit employers, we can keep track of that here. If you don't have a good system for keeping track of that for extended employment reports, this may be something you want to look at and consider for the future. If you have a great system in place, don't feel like you have to use this. It's just an option to make your life maybe a little easier. And then we're going to click on the reports tab. Show you a few reports here that we can use. The first one is this student grading report. The student grading report basically lets me give students a grade based on how many records they've put into AET in a given period of time. So I can give a start date and an end date, whatever I want that to be, and I can require them to do so many logins or do their contact information or whatever it is. If their assignment is to get everything done for the FFA info profile, I could literally give them the grade that's right here. So this student, Delmer Dalton, is going to get 100%. Dallas Comer's only going to get 69% because that's what they've got done. But I could require them to do, one FFA entry and one SAE entry per week or per grading period or whatever I wanted to do. But this would then pull that grading report. And again, if I've put them in those custom groups, if I had my freshmen sorted by class, then I can pull that custom group of freshmen and it's only going to show me those students for my grading report. Go back. The main thing probably that we're going to do as a general rule, the main reports we're going to use will be these FFA degree and application. And so if I click on that, I can see all the degrees, all the proficiencies, all the applications, Agri-Science Fair, National Chapter, etc., for my whole program. And so I can scroll through those again if I'm at home on a snow day and I'm trying to work with Charles Byers on his GOAT proficiency. I can click here and see the GOAT proficiency just exactly like he's going to see it, and I can help him and be a service to him. Show you just a couple more things on reports. We have these economic value reports, which are very valuable. I mentioned that earlier, but I can pull an economic value report for the year, or I can pull this vendor summary. Vendor summary, again, if I've put in my vendors, I can pull a report and see how much money we spent with Southern States or Jack's Hardware or Bryant Brothers or whatever the vendor might be. So we're going to pull a cash sales report. I don't have my filters just right, but you get the idea. I probably don't have any vendor things for 2019, and that's why it's showing that. But it would actually pull all of that for you and let you pull that report. Well, with that in mind, I'm gonna wrap up this video for today. As always, if you have questions, feel free to call me at 502-564-3472, or you can email matt.colliff@education.ky.gov. Glad to help with any AET issues at any time. Hope you see how AET can make your life simpler and make your job a little bit better in terms of managing students and managing student data. Thanks for watching. Let me know if I can help in the future.